I did want to then move on to another area of the pitch because against Fulham, the attack, we scored twice, but Fulham never really looked tested against us until maybe the final 10 minutes or so. Is the attack becoming even more of a concern now? Because it seems like they're limping over the finish line towards the Premier League title. You look at Mohamed Salah, outstanding season. No one would have a bad word to say about him, but he hasn't scored or assisted in 3 games now. And Diaz did turn up against Everton, and I thought he cameoed quite well against Fulham as well. But again, it's the conversations, it's the questions around that forward line about how can we possibly go into next season with the same group of players, and the likelihood is we won't.
Well, that's it. You're absolutely right. They absolutely won't. It will be a very different looking forward line going into next season, and for obvious reasons. I mean, we're looking at a team. We're talking about a team that are the top scorers in the Premier League, have generated the most expected goals, is going to win the Premier League at a canter still, and yet I think it's been obvious all season and probably for a while really that this attack is not quite right at the kind of elite level, that there are improvements you can make there. And it's just when you go through on an individual basis, the amount of question marks. I mean, I know people are talking about Salah now, but I mean, he's human. He's allowed to have 3 games off from scoring or whatever it is. That's absolutely fine. That can happen to anyone. And his numbers have been ridiculous this season. So I think we can let that one slide. But outside of him, I think the question mark's over absolutely everybody else. I mean, Luis Diaz, as you say, great cameo there. And I thought he was fantastic against Everton, but there are questions over his output. Cody Gakpo's had a very good season, but he has to keep that going, and he's been poor since his injury, you have to say. That's really set him back. Diogo Jota just can't stay fit, and then, even when he has been fit this season, the performances haven't quite been where you wanted them to be. Darwin Núñez is Darwin Núñez, so, very, very erratic in terms of his form, and Chiesa's just barely touched the pitch at all. So literally everybody outside of Salah, really, you would say there are question marks over, and I think the recruitment staff absolutely agree with that view, which is why it's probably going to get ripped up a little bit. Real chances for, I 100% expect rather that Darwin Núñez will leave. A lot of interest there, and Liverpool are open to selling him, but also interest in Luis Diaz there. Big decision to make on Chiesa, whether he wants to go or not. So there's potential to kind of rip it up and start again. But I think that's, as much as this is a side that's going to win the Premier League title, I think that needs to happen anyway. And I think what it says is that Arne Slot's done very, very well to get a title win out of this attack, because there are flaws there, and he's managed to mask them and get them through the season. But we've just seen, I think, in the last few weeks, the kind of level and the inconsistency, and when they're all not quite there, it causes you trouble. So, that's why they'll kind of remodel it. And like I say, I think it's a big achievement from the manager to have got them this far, and that not really have proven to be an issue, particularly the fact that he's not had all season a starting centre forward that you can hang your hat on, which is, pretty remarkable to win the league in those circumstances.
You mentioned there about starting centre forward, and I wanted to ask you about potential transfer links, because Liverpool in recent times have been linked with Liam Delap from Ipswich. 12 Premier League goals at a club that's going to be relegated. That's a very respectable tally. And it's Liverpool have been linked with other strikers as well, Hugo Ekitike, but would Delap be someone that, A, you think there's credibility to those links, and B, someone that could come in and could potentially claim that starting spot? Because as you've said, no one has really done that so far this season.
Yeah, my personal view is I haven't actually heard anything on the Delap links. I still think it's a little bit early kind of in terms of nailing down exactly who Liverpool are going for. I think that becomes easier as we get closer to the summer. But I'm a little bit sceptical about those links, I have to say. I mean, I know is it 12 Premier League goals, you said, this season for a side that is very poor. But of course, I think 2 of those are penalties. And I'm also, I think there's a quality young player there, and I think there's development to come from him. But if he was coming in as Liverpool's starting centre forward next season, I would have real question marks about whether he is of the level that you'd want to kind of come in and replace Darwin Núñez. Is he, 10 steps better? Is he kind of a player you would absolutely say would move that attack to the next level? I don't think he's quite got the production level behind him or the experience really to say that would be the case. I think Liverpool would go for someone who's a little bit more experienced, a little bit further down the line, and has more goals behind them, really. So I'm a little sceptical about those, and I wonder whether Liverpool's name is being used here. There is interest from Manchester United, there is interest from Chelsea, of course. They're interested in everybody. I just wonder whether Liverpool are being dragged into that one a little bit, because, you know, I think he'd be absolutely fine as maybe a backup striker for Liverpool if he was one of two options there. But I still think Jota's going to have that role next season. I think interest in him is going to be limited because of his injury record. So I still think Jota will be there as your backup. So I think what you need is a starting centre forward who's going to come in and score goals. And I'm not sure Liam Delap is kind of a nailed on success in that regard. I'm sceptical about those links, I have to say.